What you've seen, what you've viewed, is an overview, historical overview, history of shape. So shape is a walking history book. So all the pictures you see reflect 40 years plus of shape's history. Dr. Marletta Karinga over here to the left, Dr. Dick Gregory over here, and all of these people on the wall are those who blessed shape with their presence over the past 40 years. The bottom line is that shape, self-help for African people through education, is a reflection of our past, a compilation of our present, and it gives meaning to our future. The philosophy of shape is based on a concept of interdependence. You know, we believe that we are part of a collective, and we're part of a body of organs, and these organs reflect interdependence. There's no greater, no lesser, no major, no minor. Every organ is equally as important as the other, but they gotta work together. And they're all part of that circle. The focus is on the family, which is inside the circle. So the circle that you see here is our circle of interdependence. Inside that circle resides the family. So everybody focuses on that family because the family is the most important entity, the most important part of the community. Strong family, strong nation. So interdependence says that I am because we are, therefore I am. There's no me without you, and there's no you without me, because we're all part of a circle, a family of interdependence. You know, and that's equated with the body. You know, the body's down here, you have all these organs in your body. You have the heart, the kidney, the lungs, and neither one of them can function independently. They need each other, but they have to work together. The kidney down here doing all this work, and the heart's getting all the credit. But if the kidney didn't cleanse the blood, the heart will pump some funky, some impure blood, some contaminated blood. You know, so they all have to work together. So every organ has a function, and that's what the foundation of the interdependence is based on. And we always start our program at the center. In this circle that you saw here, that the elders start the day off in the circle. When the children come, they start the day off in the circle. Everything starts off in the circle. And we recognize that each one of them is as important as the other. You know, children learn from the elders, and the elders learn from the children. It's a cross-generation thing.
Okay, Brother Deloyd, I'm going to ask you, what was the purpose? Why did you start Shape Community Center?
Well, you know, we always talk about family. Family is the foundation. And I'm not just talking about the nuclear family. I'm talking about the community family. I'm talking about the African family, the black family. I'm talking about the nation. That's a family. So we knew that if you got in trouble, and you, say for example, somebody was on drugs, the first person they're gonna look to for some help is gonna be somebody in that family. The first, even when they did the wrong things, the first wrong thing they were gonna do to somebody was gonna be done to somebody in that family. If they had to steal to get that drug money, to sell something, the first person they're going to is in that family. If they, in the first place money is gonna be missing from is that family. So that's gonna affect them paying the light bill. And when they gotta get you out of jail, the first person they're gonna go to is that family. And so the family hurts when you hurt. If there's a strong family, your survival potential, your ability to grow and develop and survive through that madness is greater. So we said, well, look here, let's go ahead and develop a center that was about family strengthening and empowerment. One that would be about making the family strong. And so that when that child or that mother, that grandfather, they'll have somebody to go to. They have a strong family. So what motivated, people always ask me, well, why did you start Shape? I know what's the purpose of you starting Shape? So what made you start Shape? Nothing made me do anything. If something makes you do something, you better back up. Because that means you really don't want to do it. But I knew the importance of family. I'm talking about in the African way, the African traditional way. I'm talking about the concept of the Nguzo Saba, you know, how all of us are equally as important, no greater, no lesser, no major, no minor.
Kind of explain the youth program that you have.
We don't have a program that's focused just on youth, because those youth parents have to come to a parent meeting every single Wednesday night. And we have 100% parental participation. So the children and their families. So we have in our youth component and their families, we have children here. And we teach the children. We teach them who they are. We want them to feel good about who they are. So we teach African history, black history. We teach self-love. We teach them how important it is for them to love themselves. And of course, the important thing is that when the children come here, and I teach that child something, and they go home, and what I taught that child is not reinforced, I'm wasting my time. So we make sure that what we teach the children is reinforced with the parents at that parent meeting. So the children are here with the after-school program, summer youth program, freedom tour. We take the children on a freedom tour, retracing the civil rights movement, so they can better understand how we got whatever degree of freedom we presently enjoy. It didn't come through osmosis. It came through somebody marching, protesting, fighting, demonstrating for us to have it. So we take them on that freedom tour so they can go through that little trail from Edmund Pettus Bridge, Bloody Sunday, 16th Street Baptist Church, so they can go to the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, Memphis, Tennessee, where King was killed at, Money, Mississippi, where Emmett Till was killed at, so they can learn about how that movement came into existence and how they are presently impacted by that movement. Because those people, those brothers and sisters, and we during that period did what we did for them, and they have to know it, then they can better appreciate what they got, and they won't lose that book that they used to lose. Because now they know that somebody died for them to have the right to have that book. You know, they won't pass up those opportunities that they have to vote, because they knew that somebody died for them to have the right to vote. All that's learned on that freedom tour, retracing the civil rights movement. Well, right now, every Tuesday and Thursday, the elders, and I want to clearly explain to you what we think and who we think an elder is, because a lot of times people think, well, I'm old, I'm an elder. No, but you could be an old fool too. And there's a difference between an elder and a senior citizen. To be a senior citizen, you just have to be old. To be an elder, you have to be old and wise. So every Tuesday and Thursday, the elders meet in this circle. And they meet and they have discussion. They have exercise. They have opportunity classes where they exercise and talk and exchange and share ideas and talk about issues in the community and talk about what protests they may engage in, talk about how they should eat to live, and talk about all that kind of stuff they talk about in this circle. And they also have an exercise class. It's called Ovide, a form of, it's an African exercise where they learn how to, they use, it's almost like Tai Chi, but it's unique, very unique. And after they exercise and talk and discuss and pray and do all those wonderful things, they go, if it's during the summer, we'll have some young people to sit in the middle of the circle and face them, a circle within a circle. And that's the young people, looking at them all across the circle and exchanging with them. It's a cross-generation, intergeneration learning experience. The children are asking the elders questions and learning from them, and the elders are in turn giving them answers and talking to them. And after they finish with that, elders go in the restaurant, and I cook a good, healthy 3-course meal for them. And they sit, you know, start their lunch off with maybe a fruit salad, because the fruit goes straight through you. And that's what you start off with. You don't eat fruit as a dessert last. Fruits you have to eat first. Then after they eat that, they have a vegetable salad. You know, salad, green salad. After they eat that, I'll cook, prepare some stir-fried vegetables, maybe a veggie burger, or something healthy for them, with a salt-free seasoning, you know, and they eat and exchange and talk and dialogue, you know, during the time they're in the restaurant eating. And right after that, during the summertime, we would assign a child to an elder for them to mentor that child. The child has to be there to listen. And both learn, a child over here and an elder over here, and they're learning from each other. And it's sinful for an elder to live 94 years and hoard that wisdom and don't share that wisdom with other children and other people. If they do hoard it, then we have to reclassify them and not call them an elder. Because an elder knows that his or her responsibility is to share their wisdom. That's what makes him wise. So that goes on every Tuesday and Thursday. Elders Institute of Wisdom. And it's open to the community.
Okay.
Yeah, during the school year, we pick children up from maybe about 12 to 14 different schools. We go and receive them from the school, bring them back here. When they get here, they have their snack, eat a healthy snack. Today I got some rice crackers, rice cakes, spread it with some healthy peanut butter, with some agave nectar on it. And they won't get any juice and nothing. They get too much sugar, they'll get water. And after they eat that snack, they'll have the opening circle. They come in the circle. When they come in the circle, they start off with their ritual. They'll ask permission from the elders to proceed. Then they'll do their circle of interdependence. I am because we are. We are therefore I am. There's no me without you, and there's no you without me, because we're all part of a circle of interdependence. Then they'll go to the next thing. They'll do the children's pledge. As a child, I will listen to learn. I will look to learn. I will think to learn. I will follow the rules and act appropriately for myself, for my family, and for my community. Then the elders, the adults, parents in the circle, the teachers, will do their pledge. And that's that, I believe in the ancient African proverb, that it takes an entire village to raise a child. I will listen to the children. I will nurture the children. I will teach and I will model appropriate behavior for myself, for my family, and for my community. That's what the teachers and the older people in the circle do. Then following that, they do the 7 principles. Unity, self-determination, commitment, responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. They have to say these principles and say what they mean. And they ask for a proverb from one of the elders, or one of the students in the circle. And they have to cite what the proverb is. And after they do that, they end it with one big harambe. And then they go back to the chairs and they get ready to go to their classes and to do their homework and whatever else they do. Maybe their yoga classes or whatever else they do during the evening, but they have to focus on getting their lesson, their homework, and learning to the computer room. So that's every Monday through Friday. The children are here. And then on Saturdays, they're here for other activities. You know. That's the after-school program.
Right. Now, I know we have a Kwanzaa program that we do annually. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes. And we have over 100% parental participation. Why? Because we don't set them up for failure. In other words, a parent is not just somebody who gave birth to a child. A parent is a person who helps take care of a child and care for that child. So that means if you can't come, if you're the biological parent and you can't come to that parent meeting, you have to send somebody else to represent you who helps you with your child, since you don't raise your child by yourself. The grandmother could come, the uncle, the aunt, somebody who helps you with your child. That way you don't have any excuses. I gotta work. Well, send somebody else who helps you, since you do not raise your child by yourself. That's why it's 100% participation. Then you were mentioning about the, what was that just now? You mentioned Kwanzaa celebration. We practice Kwanzaa 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because it's not just a celebration. Kwanzaa is a value system. It's a Nguzo Sabi. Let me clarify something. Everything I was telling you earlier is Kwanzaa, but that's Kwanzaa in practice. Now we celebrate Kwanzaa, obviously, on the 26th of December through the 1st of January. We celebrate during those 7 days, what we practice during the whole year. So it's important that the 26th of December through the 1st of January, we celebrate, speak to, accentuate, lift up those 7 principles and teach and engage in the culture by bringing good into the world. We do that during those 7 days, but more importantly than what we do, what we celebrate is what we do the remainder of the year. I want to emphasize that. To celebrate Kwanzaa means nothing unless you practice the principles of Kwanzaa 365 days out of the year. And that's the most important thing that I want to emphasize. because a lot of people celebrate Kwanzaa, but they go back to being, some of them go back to being silly, foolish, and counter to our value system after they celebrate. And that's not what we want to do.
If I may, how did Kwanzaa originate?
Well, Dr. Maulana Karinga actually came up with the celebration, the holiday celebration. He created it because he felt there was a need for us embracing our value system, something that we can hold on to and build on and strengthen our families. He created Kwanzaa because he thought that African Americans, we needed our own celebration. And in the context of having our own celebration, we need our own value system. And we don't mind sharing with other people. If the world embraced those value systems, the world would be a better world. So it was created by Dr. Maulana Karinga, but I don't want to stop there. He came up with it, but he didn't just pull it out of the sky. He did research and study. He looked at Africa across the continent and learned and extracted from those African experiences, from that African culture. I know like in this, East Africa, you have the Ngusas, you have Saba Saba, they celebrate the feast. In Nigeria, they have the Yam Yam Festival, where they celebrate during the harvest, So whatever Dr. Karinga got, he made it unique to our experience here in North America, but he extracted from his knowledge and his wisdom of other African people throughout the world, in particular in Africa. So it was, and by the way, many of us had already been practicing Kwanzaa because our culture reflects that. Many of us, before the Kwanzaa celebration was created, we had been practicing Kwanzaa but didn't know what to call it. Didn't know it was Kwanzaa. By doing collective work and responsibility, by doing cooperative economics, by being creative in what we do, by having faith in ourselves, our parents, our teachers, our leaders. We have been practicing it all along, but we had to put it in context, and we had to develop it. And that's what Dr. Karinga did. He brought it together, put it in its proper context, and made it suitable and feasible for us to practice it throughout the world. So millions of people celebrate Kwanzaa, not just here in North America, but all over the world.
Now, SHAPE is a nonprofit entity, so where do you get your manpower?
Well, 90% of our staff are volunteers.
Okay.
That's, again, Kwanzaa, collective work and responsibility. We have students that come from TSU, U of H, from any university in the community to come to volunteer. Some of them come to do their internship here. Some of them come to do their psychology, volunteerism here in psychology. Some students come from the high schools. They have to do 100 hours before they can graduate from high school. They come and do it at SHAPE. Some people just want to volunteer. So we have hundreds upon hundreds of volunteers who come to give back. Then those people who came through SHAPE as children come back and give back. They volunteer back into SHAPE. So, and of course, SHAPE Center is not a government institution. Our money comes from the people. Again, practice the principles of Kwanzaa, cooperative economics. When you gave us $100 last year, and then 100 other people gave us $100, hey, that's $10,000. That's cooperative economics. When we have a fundraiser, and people come and they buy some food, that's cooperative economics. And that's self-determination. So the money to keep SHAPE Center going are the resources. It doesn't always be money. Money is necessary, but resources are necessary as well. Because it takes money sometimes to buy resources, and you can get them without having to pay for them monetarily, then you still have the resources. So people come and give through fundraising, through cooperative economics, through collective work and responsibility. People come and give, and they help create opportunities for us to get funds to keep SHAPE Center going. But remember, the largest budget category in most institutions has to do with staff. And if most of our staff are volunteers, then we don't have to worry as much about that. We just have to be concerned about a core staff. And that core staff is who supervises volunteers. We struggle with them. And remember I mentioned that interdependent concept? If you're hurting at home and you donate to SHAPE or give to SHAPE, SHAPE is going to be hurting because you don't have as much to give to SHAPE. So we're part of an interdependent web, and what affects you has an impact on us, and vice versa. If SHAPE is not able to do all that it's been doing, it affects you because you benefit from SHAPE. So it's all interdependent. And I want to stress the circle of interdependence. We need each other, and we have to work together. And we have to use family unity and self-determination where we think for ourselves, speak for ourselves, believe in ourselves, not have other people telling us who we are. We have to embrace collective working responsibility, working collectively. We have to embrace cooperative economics, pulling our resources together. We have to embrace, have a clearly defined purpose, know why we're here. And we have to embrace creativity, being as creative as we can be to get what we need. And then, of course, we have to embrace faith. We have to have faith in ourselves, faith in our teachers, our leaders, our parents. We have to have faith in the righteousness and victory of our struggle. We have to have faith. And those are the 7 principles that help us to get through all of this.
And you're doing an outstanding job here in the community. And brother, to have a brother like you, we're blessed. And we want to thank you for this interview.
Thank you very much. Just in closing, I'd like to stress that I am because we are. We are, therefore I am. There's no me without you, Dwayne, and there's no you without me. We are all part of a family, a circle of interdependence.
Well, the food we prepare here is all vegan. All vegan. That is, no animal products, dairy, no iodine salt, and no refined sugar. Because we know all these products cause diseases in our people. High blood pressure, colon cancer, liver failure, diabetes. We run the gambit in that. So my wife and I decided to open up this restaurant due to some things occurring in our life. Sometimes you can be heading one way, like Jonah in the belly of a whale. He was heading one way, God wanted him to go another way. So the whale swallowed him up and spit him where God wanted him to go. So that's what happened to us. So we're now here by the good graces of Shapson and Deloyd Parker. Master Strong, man. No. We always get all kinds of people.
Still drumming, right?
Yeah. People think that eating healthy is expensive. Getting sick in America is way more expensive. Trying to recover after you got sick is way more expensive. And all too many of us, in particular as African people, we are actually dealing with disease that are directly diet related. And people think that the generation of disease is high blood pressure, but it's really coming from the fact that we've been eating that way for generations. It's not no disease that follows us as naturally, just genetic. We don't inherit with high blood pressure. High blood pressure comes from how we eat and the folks we have to deal with.
So we start here. That's where the elders eat that good meal. That's where they prepare healthy food. And so every Tuesday and Thursday in particular, the elders meet here, and then throughout the week, people are able to come in and eat healthy food. But also on these walls are pictures of elders. These are pictures of elders all over the walls. And one of the elders you see right here is Elder Amelia Boynton Robinson. If you remember the Edmund Pettus Bridge where Bloody Sunday took place, she was on that bridge when they were crossing that bridge fighting and protesting for the right to vote. Amelia Boynton Robinson. She's been to SHAPE and she spoke to, she's about 98 years old now. And she spoke to the elders here, and here we presented her the staff. This is the staff that we presented to her in her honor. But on these walls you have nothing but elders, wise men and women who continues to give back to the community.
Well, I'm a shaper now. I'm I'm connected with Shape Community Center, the only organization that I affiliate myself with on a full-time basis. I'm the artist. I actually have a facility that he gave me in the second floor to utilize of an Almeida-shaped building. And this is where I create my magic. Well, I'm dressed in a royal fashion. I know they were doing a documentary on Shape and Deloyd Parker, so I had to represent. So I'm representing the highest form. This is high artistic kingship. If I have to go before a king, which I have many times before, this is similar to what I would wear, minus the jeans. I pull up here on my chariot. This is one of the best chariots I've ever had. I got 2 baskets on the back. This is one of the pieces of one of the elders at the Shape Community Center. They call it Elders Institute of Higher Learning. And this is one of the elders that's been most faithful. She's been around since the conception of Shape Community Center. And this is some of the work that I do for Shape.
Everybody's talking about Joe Frazier. Everywhere I go, people talking about Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier this, Joe Frazier that. Call Houston, Texas. People talking about Joe Frazier. But there's one man I got to get. His name is Reverend Ray Martin. They call him Ray Martin. Listen, I was here about a few years ago when I was about 35 years old and got in the ring with this fighting preacher. And he knocked me down, knocked me out. But I got to get revenge. Reverend Ray Martin is in trouble. That Ray Martin right there, he's in trouble. Ray's in trouble. I got to get him. Reverend Ray, you got me 2 years ago. Let me warm up a little bit, Ray. I'm getting ready for you. Everybody talking about Ray Martin in Houston, Texas. I got to get Ray Martin. Ray got the boom. He knocked me down. He had this triple, that hook he called the triple left hook. I didn't see it coming, but Ray is in trouble. Come on, Ray. Let's go get it on. Let's get it on, Ray. You scared? Come on, Ray Martin. I got you. I want you, Ray. You're in trouble. You're in trouble. You're in trouble. Reverend Ray, we want to talk to you a little bit this morning about a little introduction of the PABA here.
Well, PABA was chartered by the state of Texas October the 29th, 1969. Our purpose, as stated in Article 4 of our Articles of Incorporation, is to teach young boys between the age of 6 and 19 the art of boxing, develop a good character in the youth, and discover untapped resources of leadership and ingenuity in the youth, and motivate the youth to use their talent towards development of their community.
How old, basically, is the PABA, Progressive Amateur Boxing Association?
PABA will be 40 years old on October the 29th. We was chartered by the state of Texas October the 29th. Now, we actually moved into the old building that was on the same spot on June the 1st, 1970.
And there was something like a phrase that you would use about the boxing glove?
Yes, that's the phrase that our counselor for troubled youth wrote many years ago, Uncle Bud Johnson, who's a long-time news writer and reporter here in the city of Houston. He put that together. A kid can't open a knife, a fire gun with boxing gloves on.
We know that you were called a fighting preacher, so that meant you had to do a little fighting in your day. Can you talk about how you started with the boxing career?
Yes. Well, ever since I was a kid, I used to listen to the Joe Louis fights, on the radio. And I had made up in my mind at that point that I wanted to become the heavyweight champion of the world like Joe Louis. And I guess the thing that motivated me towards that, where every time Joe Louis would win a fight, they would give him a chance to say something. They would give him a chance to have a few words. And I concluded in my mind that I wanted to win the heavyweight title so that I could do what Muhammad Ali eventually did, use his leverage as heavyweight champion of the world to speak to some of the social issues that was facing our people. And this is what I wanted to do. So this is the reason why I got off at the boxing. So when I dropped out of school and went into the Air Force, I was hoping, and the reason I did that, my brother had gone to the Army and he sent back some pictures off in his boxing gear and everything because they had a boxing team on the camp that he was on. He was in the Army. So I thought that if I went into the Army, this is where I could get a chance to do my boxing. So I went in, I beg your pardon, the Air Force. I didn't go into the Army, I went into the Air Force. I figured that they had it on the Army bases, they also had it on the Air Force bases. And I guess they did have it on some Air Force bases, but unfortunately, I never could get on a base with a boxing team. I got a chance to play football. They had football on most of the bases that I got on. I never will forget, because one of the remarks that I make quite often there is that when I was, I'm the only person alive that played football against Prairie View and Texas Southern University, and also played football for both Prairie View and Texas Southern University. While I was at Elton Field, I played against both universities.
Your family, how did they perceive you in terms of all the work you were putting in PABA?
My wife has been quite instrumental in working with me, and I guess it happened to keep me on track mentally, spiritually, and morally, and just have been, I guess, without my wife, I never could have made it because my wife and I married maybe about 3 years after PABA came into existence. So she drawn along with me, right along with PABA. I helped to build PABA and develop it into what it is.
Okay. Now you are called a fighting preacher.
Yes. You know, I was actually called into the ministry. I was a member of Trinity United Methodist Church under the Reverend Dr. Robbie Hayes. That was back in, must have been around the early 60s, during the early 60s. I was a student at TSU, and one of the guys encouraged me to come to church with him. I came to Trinity, and I fell in love with the way that Reverend Hayes was presenting his message, presenting his sermon. And I guess my whole method of preaching come more from the way that Reverend Hayes delivered his message than anyone else that I've heard, because I just kind of, like I say, fell in love with the way that he delivered his message. But about 4 years after I was at Trinity, Reverend Hayes was called to become the president of Wally College. And I stayed there a couple of more years, and then I left and came to Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church. And And I guess the surprising thing about all of this is that when I left Trinity, I'm thinking that I'm going to be able to go to Jerusalem because I thought that Trinity, the method of their services, the way that they presented their services and everything, I thought it was on such a high level. I said that I could go to Jerusalem and kind of teach them a few things that I learned here in Jerusalem. But when I got to Jerusalem, I found out that they knew a little bit more than I thought they did. And anyway, the pastor there, the Reverend David Leon Everett II, David Leon II, who was the first member of the Houston School Board, took the license and ordained me into the ministry. I was called to the ministry there at Trinity, but I was actually licensed and ordained by Reverend Everett at Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church.
Some of your famous sermons, can you give a title of some of them?
That mean the most to me is are the two that I recorded. One is Black Preacher, Where Are You? And the other one is The Three Laws of Destiny. Now that's not to take away from my testimony that I also recorded, the Informal Conversation with God, Part 1 and 2.
Okay. We understand that a section of the Black Panther Party or back then in the late 60s, early 70s, were trying to start a chapter here in Houston, and a few things took place.
Yes, I remember the Black Panther Party real well, because when we moved into this building in 1970, that's when the Panther Party was getting set up on the corner of 2M and Dowling, just one block over. We was on one side of the Emancipation Park, and they was on the corner on the other side of the Emancipation Park. And called Hampton, who I did not know at the time. I didn't know Carl at the time, just knew of him. I really didn't know too many members of the Panthers. I just seen them there and saw what they was doing and everything. I never did myself see anything wrong with it because the word had got out, and somehow I had found out that their purpose for being there was because, if you remember, during that time, the 2800 block of Dowling was covered with prostitution, all type of vices was going on there, and it was, and their purpose for being there, what they wanted to do was clean that area out. And I guess one of the most blessed things that happened to me, happened to me on the Sunday evening. That Carl got killed. Just so happened earlier that day, because I used to go to Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church in the morning. And when I would leave there, Raymond X was the head of the temple number 45, the Muslim. At that point, I would go down to the other service after I left Jerusalem. I'd go down and listen to Raymond. It just so happened on this particular Sunday, I had just left from Raymond, from mosque number 45 that was on the corner of McGowan and Dowling, and I was driving down Dowling, and somehow a car was coming, must have been coming from the park, because it was coming up Dowling off the same block where the park is, and I got a chance to stop and talk with him. And that's when he was, and that was the first time I got a chance to talk with him. And that's when he was explaining to me about their program and what they were trying to do, to explain the food program and how they was trying to, again, deal with the situation that existed there in the 2800 block, and they had such a beautiful personality, and just you would wonder how would someone with such a pleasant and humble personality could fit into the image that was projected by the papers with those guys with those rifles on their arm that just didn't go along with Carl's personality. And I was so glad I got a chance to talk with him there and find that out for myself from his own words, what they was all about and what they was trying to do.
Okay. We also understand that you were instrumental in helping to get one of our other personalities, a strong black leader here in Houston, Texas, Brother Ovide Duncantell. You were kind of instrumental in helping him to come out of a hostile situation. Can you explain that and talk a little bit about that?
Yes, you know, on that, and as I was saying a little bit earlier, on the night that Carl got killed, it was that day when I got a chance to talk with him. The standoff had already begun to take place. You had a lot of people, and I went down there to check it out.
Okay, point of reference, standoff. Can you explain what do you mean by that?
Well, the standoff between the police department and the People's Party number 2, because what was taking place is the People's Party number 2, the guys said they was trying to get them to put their weapons down and not to parade around their headquarters with their weapons, but they refused to do that. So because of that, they had to stand off with the police department. And on this particular night, the police, evidently the police department must have concluded that they was going to come down and take over People's Party number 2. And they had a platoon of policemen marching down to him. A little bit on the other side, they started a little bit on the other side of Jordan Road, Missionary Baptist Church, over to him, marching up towards People Party number 2. And somehow, in the process of doing that, Duncantell and I came in contact with each other, and we saw the policemen saw what they was saw them marching, and we knew that they was going to march down on People Party number 2. So we went down to the headquarters to try to warn the guys that they're going to have to leave out because they had this platoon of policemen coming down to, I guess, if they didn't come out, they had M1 rifles on their shoulders. They were going to have a shootout with them. So we went in, so Duncantell and I, we went in the headquarters at People Party number 2. We tried to encourage the guys to leave out, but they refused to leave while we were there. They said they were going to stay there and shoot it out with them. And Duncantell and I stayed there as long as we could, trying to encourage them to leave. But after them leaving, the Gospels started marching down. Duncantell and I came on out of the building because we didn't want to get caught up in the situation. So as we was coming out, this is when the policeman was clearing Dowling, and they was pushing everybody back on the other side of Elgin. Everybody on the other side of Elgin. And Duncantell and I was just coming out of the People's Party number 2 headquarters, and we was going to come down Elgin also. We were not down Elgin, but Dowling also. How he was informed that these cops was going to possibly take some type of shot at him because he had been off into, he had challenged the Houston Police Department. Neither one of Duncantell had given that statement for something that happened out at the Sunnyside dump. For every kid that is killed, 9 pigs, I think you could say, would have to die. So because of that, they was after Dunk. So I was trying to help Dunk get out of that situation because Dunk, something that happened to Dunk, and he got the word that they was going to possibly trying to take his life. I was trying to shelter him, and then we was moving down towards Elgin, but somehow off in the process, he also was able to get out of sight, but the place was packed, so he got lost. He went fuzz off in the crowd. And I wasn't moving and following and up with the crowd to the degree that the policemen thought that I should have been up with the crowd. So they came and singled me out from everybody else that was walking. And that's when they put their M1 rifle in my back and pushed me and told me to walk faster. All right. So when I got to Elgin, everybody else could disperse and go wherever they wanted to go, but they kept they kept pushing me, and they took me to the paddy wagon that they had at this little service station over here. It wasn't the same name at that particular point. Matter of fact, it was a black guy who was running it at that time. But anyway, they had this paddy wagon set up there, and they made me get off into the paddy wagon, and they took me to jail. And I had to spend the night in jail. And off in jail, they had I ran into the late Congressman Leland was in the same cell that I was in. Kelton Sam, I don't know if you remember Kelton Sam, but Kelton Sam and I worked together over that Hope Development under Reverend Ray Martin for a few years when Hope first got started. I spent that night in jail, and those were some of the people that were also in the same cell that I was in. The place was packed out, and I don't know if everybody off in jail was a part of the route, if they was in there for something else, but the place was packed.
Progressive Amateur Boxing Association has had a lot of prominent and successful professional fighters to come by here. Can you kind of talk about some of those fighters that you can recall that come through here?
Yeah, I guess all of you great fighters came through just about. Joe Lewis came by, Sugar Ray Robinson, Archie Moore, and when they would come by, they would get involved with the kids, and the place would be packed. Buster Douglas came by. Sugar Ray Leonard. Matter of fact, we got some pictures and tapes with Sugar Ray Leonard being here. Don King has been here. Ralph Cooper was instrumental in bringing Don King and Larry Holmes. Don King and Larry Holmes. Ralph Cooper was instrumental in bringing them by.
And of course, Ralph Cooper is one of our sports commentators here in Houston, Texas.
Those are Joe Frazier never did actually get the PABA, but we had a lot of contact with Joe Frazier, but we never actually got a chance to visit PABA. But most of your great fighters are, like I say, Larry Holmes, Archie Moore, Joe Lewis, Sugar Ray Robinson. And you don't get too much credit than Sugar Ray Robinson. I think most of the fighters are young fighters, even Ali in some degree copied his style off of Sugar Ray Robinson's style. I know that Sugar Ray Leonard copied lots of, he even took some of his name.
What are some of the other people that would come through here, politicians and whoever would come through to either look at the program here or help you out with the program?
Yeah, I guess most of your mayors either came by or helped. I know Louis Welch is the one when we appeared before the city council trying to get our first grant, and they had that tie on wasn't even going to give us the funds or not. And Louis Welch was absent at that point, and then the next week they reconsidered. They didn't have to reconsider, but it came before the council again, and it was Louis Welch vote that broke the tie. So Louis Welch was one of the great supporters. Then Senator Benson has been by.
Was that Mayor Jim McCann?
Yeah, McCann.
Okay, right.
Jim McCann, right, man. Jim McCann. He came to one of our boxing shows, matter of fact. Yes, he was a good friend of PABA.
Okay. Reverend Ray, is there anything else that we may have left out that you want to kind of expound on?
Nothing other than I think, well, I do believe that this has been a real, the whole experience of being here, being able to last for 40 years, and through all of different things that we had to go through, and to be able to keep the doors open for these 40 years, which will be on October the 29th, on October the 29th. It's, I think it's a blessing, and I'd just like to say that I'm very thankful to everyone who have donated and contributed to PABA and made this happen, especially my family. And I know without the help and support from so many people and so many foundations, that we never could have made it to this particular point. Then, often recently, so many people have supported us, like and so many foundations, financially, like the Houston Endowment, the Houston Foundation, not to mention the gift that George Foreman gave to PABA for our endowment plan, not to mention one of my sisters at Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church. She's deceased now, that's Sister Lita Sunshine Frank, who used to give me a financial gift every Sunday after church, along with some oranges, apples, and a little candy. And we're just thankful to the people who have given us this type of support down through the years. And as I was stating off in the beginning, my wife, Barbara, and now who also not only helped me here, she also gave birth to a lovely daughter and a fine son that works here with us, because my daughter's a student, an English teacher at Jack Yates Senior High School, but every summer she helped us with help her mother with PABA summer program.
Reverend Ray Martin, stand. Reverend Ray Martin, we are blessed to have a dynamic individual like you in our community, and we very appreciate you very much, Reverend Ray. Thanks for this interview.
We thank you.
All right.
On my left, I have Kenyatta, and Kenyatta and I go back to when we was having the tearing down the old building and building this building, and we was out there in the 5th Ward together. And on my right, I have Brother Kenya, who has been a dear friend and a supporter of the organization, even have worked with us with our young people with teaching drum classes and what have you, and who is a real active and a true activist off in the community when it comes to actually hands-on and doing things off in the community.
I first heard about Reverend Ray Martin in New York City. That was my first knowledge of him in Brooklyn, talking about the Reverend that knocked down Muhammad Ali. And that was kind of, from the South, coming from the South, it's like, that was kind of interesting. But when I moved to Houston, I had no idea I'd be right across the street from him. And getting to know him, it sort of like become a very prominent image for me and helped me in the moves that I make here in the city, the positive moves. And I started coming across the street and, donating my time to the children. Because he's a magnet for children. And I have that same magnetic thing, so I started blending in with him with the drum classes out in the open field. I was getting ready to give up. And I came across the street one day, I was just going, and I came, because when I go to the, I usually come across here and sit down. And so he came out, and I said, something, I feel like just giving up on this Panther Party, but winners never quit, and quitters never win. And I sat there going, okay, he's right. I need to just stand there because, the activist movement is very small. It's not big anymore. You don't have large amounts of people protesting and marching and speaking about, human rights and civil rights. It's very small, so, you're gonna have to be able to take a lot now. Because it's so small, to be able to be triumphant, in order to influence those who come in after us. So I see now it is becoming the 5%. That 5% so that they can influence that 85%. Or that 100%. So he's very influential to me as a new Black Panther member. Not new Black Panther Party, but as a new generation of Black Panthers.
I was with Mr. Ovide Duncantell, who is a icon in the grassroots community, not in the Afro-Turf community, but in the grassroots community. And I was with him one day, and a gentleman walked up to Mr. Ovide Duncantell and asked him, do you know who I am? And Mr. Duncantell did not recognize the fellow. And the fellow began to tell Mr. Duncantell who he was. The fellow, and we got this on video, by the way. The fellow told Brother Duncantell, he said, I was a medic in the hospital when Carl Hampton, the Black Panther, was assassinated. And Brother Duncantell was on Dowling Street, and he said that he was, being a medic, the police were near him with their walkie-talkies, and he heard a sniper tell the police sergeant, I have Ovide Duncantell in my sights. Should I take him out? And the sergeant said, well, is there anybody else near Mr. Duncantell? And the sharpshooter said, his response was, there is someone next to him. He says, and it's a preacher. I forgot if he called Reverend Ray's name out or not. But he said, there's a preacher right next to him. So the sergeant told the sharpshooter, no, leave it alone. And so Reverend Ray put his arms around Brother Duncantell and led Duncantell off of Dowling Street. In other words, to make a long story short, as the man was relating to Brother Duncantell, Reverend Ray actually saved Duncantell's life.
Ray Martin, you're in trouble. It's time to walk in. I promise you. Every time stay there. We're going to set a date. We're going to set a time. We're going to come. See this light? Reverend Ray Martin, let's go. He will go in microphone.
Every time I see you, you got a big frown on your face. I can see hate coming from you. Just because of my color and my race. Even on the TV, I see your hatred on the news. Even on the TV, I see your hatred on the news. You're beating and killing my folks and claim it's not even police abuse. I'm so tired of you hate me blue. I'm so tired of you hate me blue. 'Cause there ain't nothing I can do about the you hate me blue.
My name is Ovide Duncantell, and I am a veteran hellraiser in this town in reference to human rights. And we cannot tolerate any group, especially the ones that we are paying with our dime, to humiliate us as they've done at the Houston Fire Department. This department has been a long struggle for the people in this city to try and correct. We've gotten some semblance of correction in the police department. That was a long fight, long struggle. But now, the fire department is still trying to maintain and hold on to its old segregated way. I'm from Natchitoches, Louisiana. Came to Houston in 1959. Came to Houston and something was out of whack, I noticed right away. Checking around, I found a city this size, which I think at that time Houston was probably 5th or 6th largest city in America. There were no blacks in any position of power, not even dog catcher. And mentally, in the back of my head, I made a note that I would have to be a part of a force to change this. I took some labor jobs. I had to feed myself, and I had a wife. Later on, I got into the insurance business, and I decided maybe here I can make a difference. I was working for an all-black insurance company, Universal Life, and I went on to excel and become his first Texas Agent of the Year. But that wasn't the perfect entree into me going where I wanted to go. But it did force me into another position where I took some additional steps that started putting me on that path to becoming what later known as the town militant. I immediately suffered through some changes after some changes I went through with Universal Life that cost me my job. And I ran into the anti-poverty program, members of the anti-poverty program here in Houston. And they were impressed with my sales ability, because that's one of the things I put on my resume, that I am a salesperson. I can sell things. And they said, well, maybe you can sell the community on how to get itself out of poverty. And I became a member of the Harris County Anti-Poverty Program. Harris County Community Action Association is what it was known as. My first task was to do something about a little addition called Bio State. I always remember Bio State because it was in the city of Houston, but it had no running water. They were getting water from well pumps. It had outdoor privies or toilets or whatever, however you want to call those things. And they had no sewage in that addition. So I told these people, called them into a meeting and said, the one thing you need to do is to empower yourself to get those things that you need. You're going to have to organize. So we organized them into a club, and they said, now next step, we're going to have to go to City Hall, because that's where the problem can be solved. That's where it's being exacerbated from, and it can be solved from there. So we ganged up and we got in vehicles and other forms of transportation. I think some guy rode his bicycle down to City Hall, and we addressed the city council. Well, of course, they laughed at us and they said, hey, look, we understand what's happening out there, but they're on our list way down the road, but we'll get to them. So no, that's not exactly what we had in mind. We want something done, and we want something done now. And I'll never forget the guy that was over Public Works, and he became a lifelong enemy of mine as a result of me calling him out and letting him know it was his responsibility to take care of this human problem out here. And I told him that we'll be there every council day until the job was done. And we would be larger and larger each time we came. We were getting other communities to coalesce with us, and we were coming down, and we're going to come strong enough until we let the mayor know that his job is in jeopardy unless he makes this department here start working. Well, we put on the pressure worked, and long story short, we got Bio State water. They got indoor toilet. It was able to accompany themselves with indoor toilets. And, we had sewage, the whole bit, everything that was expected for taxpayers to have that lived in the city of Houston. Souls Unlimited, about 1,700 strong. I won't go into all the details of how I sort of like inherited that group, because I was another youth organizer over that group, but he was snatched up and put in the Vietnam War, and I sort of inherited the young troopers, as I call them affectionately, And as a result of that, we did things together, took them to Galveston and all kind of, the whole purpose was to get these youngsters involved in community projects, because do all the fancy things and then get them involved, helping with painting senior citizen houses, cleaning up the community, cleaning up the streets and the sewers, the sidewalks in the neighborhoods. So we got all of that going. And in the midst of that, there was problems occurring in the community that was sort of outside of what we were doing. And one thing we noticed, that young blacks were being killed or murdered at a more than, just not, there's no normal rate to get murdered, but it was accelerating here in the city of Houston. We hear about 1 this week, 3 next week, and it's just on and on and on. Well, we didn't really get involved until it happened to us. One of our youngsters was a young man named Dawkins, who had not really joined the Souls Unlimited. He was sort of like looking into whether he wanted to become a member. But he hung around our group, and one afternoon, headed out to Sharpstown to go pick up his check. He asked the young man to give him a ride. Turned out, to make a long story short, the ride was stolen. Police got behind the vehicle, and young Dawkins did not know the circumstances. So I imagine he did what any normal human being would do, and I was asked the young man, say, hey, look, I don't know what's going on here, but let me out of here. So he turned off of Holmes Road down a side street in Sunnyside, and Dawkins, he stopped the vehicle. Dawkins jumped out. The cops was right behind him on their tail. You know, you can't lose a cop chase. Anyway, Dawkins jumped out of the vehicle to run and distance himself away from that. The cops stopped also. They got out of their vehicle. The young man that was driving the vehicle, the stolen vehicle, took on off, and they didn't follow him. They took aim at Dawkins and shot him in the back and cut him almost half in two with some double-R buckshot shells. Well, Dawkins, the word got to me that afternoon. Some of the members of the organization went out to investigate, and they called me and said, hey, one of our people been hit. And that's when we had a huge meeting of our lieutenants, top lieutenants, about 75 of them. We met at a park and decided to take some action as a result of this. That action led, and let me just be brief here, led to us going to City Hall. Being the elder of the group, I decided, the youngster had written a speech, but I decided I'd make the speech because all of these guys were in high school, and I know immediately they were going to be expelled and a whole bunch of other calamities were going to befall them. Had one of them made the speech, they'd make a scapegoat. Say, let them scapegoat me. So I made the speech, and that was the 10-pig statement. That's where we went before City Council and the mayor to put on alert the city of Houston that if another youngster within our organization was murdered, not killed, but murdered, that we, by the police department, we would take an action that was called, that would call for killing 10 pigs for every youngster that was murdered in our organization. Now the whole purpose of that was to just shock these cops to their senses, don't kill any more young brothers in our area. And of course, obviously it did, because we never lost another youngster. But it didn't stop it in other areas of Houston. And I'll come to that, because a young man that was one of my insurance clients, and remember I told you I worked for Universal Life Insurance Company. So going back to that, it was a young man that was just gotten out of the service, and he was doing what young people do, and I guess he was drinking. Police got behind him, and he outran the police to one area, but they called, it was in Galena Park area. Galena Park and city of Houston, there's a dividing line called Fidelity Road. So he was zigzagging over between Fidelity Road, Galena Park, and Houston, and Clinton Park is what it was called, trying to get to his house. Well, he almost made it, but the cops blocked him. The city of Houston and Galena Park police blocked him and caught him. Well, you know, they were supposed to take him to jail and let him sleep it off and then bring him to court. Well, it didn't happen that way. Police department, now they were in Galena Park and they put him in Galena Park jail because they say that's where the first offense occurred. Well, the Houston Police Department was supposed to go home, but they didn't do that. Houston Police Department went down to Galena Park and said, hey, let us teach you how, show you how we handle niggas up there in Houston. When they run from us, we make them pay. So they stripped this young brother naked. Bobby Joe Connors is the young brother's name. Stripped him naked, like and started beating him and kicking him. And they did that to such an extent that sooner they realized that he was lying on the floor and he wasn't breathing. So they rushed him to the hospital and all of that, but there was no reviving Bobby at that time because what they had done, they had busted his, they had kicked him and busted his spleen, and he died there in the jailhouse. Well, of course, that rose the community, and I got a call in the middle of the night. Some brother called me and said, all right, Duncantell, I heard you on Channel 13. I was looking right at you, and you said you were going to get 10 pigs for every brother killed in the city of Houston. Well, I didn't say it exactly that way, but I can't avoid this situation when I found, especially when I found who it was, a young man that was in my, you know, I knew his family, I knew him, and so the people in Clinton Park and Galena Park decided to protest. So that's where I met Carl Hampton, the young brother that later we were to end up again taking on the police department. But this was in Galena Park, and I met Carl, and it was in a sort of strange circumstances because I was there to help just to protect the protesters. We always knew when protesters in strange territory, there had to be a group that wasn't going to protest. They were just there to make sure that nobody else, you know, involved themselves with the protesters or tried to stop them. As a matter of fact, the Klan came from Pasadena, which is close to Galena Park, to scare the young protesters out. Well, when we showed up with our briefcases, and everybody had something in their briefcase, and I said, I'm not afraid to say it, I had a 45 and a 38 in my briefcase. And most brothers had some that was in the protection squad, had some weapon that they could use if they had to. We were a defensive group. We weren't no aggressive group. We weren't shooting anybody or doing anything to anyone. Matter of fact, no one knew we had weapons unless it became necessary. One of the city workers was going around with a garbage, with a mosquito spray truck, spraying the demonstrators with the spray mist to run them off. And Carl and I must have like simultaneously got up on each side of this vehicle. He came up on one side, I came up on the other. I didn't know Carl, I didn't know he was there. But if I saw him, I didn't know who he was. And we both told, sort of like simultaneously told this driver to stop this vehicle. We told him if he didn't, something bad was about to happen to him, right quick, right fast. And we told him to cut it off. Well, he just looked at me and he looked at Carl, and Carl was a little smaller, slimmer and smaller in stature than I was. So he ran out, almost ran over Carl, almost knocked him down and ran out of the vehicle and left it there sitting in the road smoking with the fog going. And Carl and I looking at each other, we don't know how to cut this thing off. So finally somebody came over and turned off the thing. And that was my meeting with Carl Hampton. And we sort of swore, met, talked, and while the demonstrators was going on, and sort of swore allegiance to each other, because we knew we had problems far bigger than just what was going on here in Galena Park. And one thing we noticed as community activists, we noticed every time the city was ready to drop a garbage dump in near one of our communities, they would start a side attraction, a sideshow, to get everybody, divert everybody's attention from what was going on in the garbage deal, especially if we were well organized in terms of stopping the garbage. As a result of making the 10-pig statement, my apartment manager decided, the owner of the apartment decided that I had to leave. I couldn't live there any longer because he felt the cops were going to come out and burn the building down and kill me and everybody in it, and he would be responsible. So he issued me the traditional 3-day notice to vacate, and then after that I had to go to court out in Pasadena, right. And it was this move that I had to go through, or this scenario I had to go through, that later led to us endearing power to ourselves through some institutions that we didn't have before. That's right. I had to go to Pasadena because I lived in Sunnyside, and black folk in Sunnyside, if you were being evicted, you had to go to Pasadena, Texas, to the redneck court out there, Justice of the Peace, which was right next door, or right down the street from the Ku Klux Klan headquarters. That's right. And you had to be tried there. I went in, and the judge told me I had 7 days to get out of this apartment, and he said he wished he could narrow that down and make it 1 day, or less than 1 day, to get my ass out of there for what I had said and done. So he gave me the 7 days, and I told the judge, I said, well, I paid up for 2 weeks, and I don't plan to go anywhere in 7 days. And I walked out of his court and left, got in my car and came on back to Sunnyside. Picked up my gun, got on the door, and here's where I like to really compliment my wife. Most black women would have taken off, running when you came back to the house and said, hey, let's get this stuff and get out of here. Tomorrow they're going to come and throw everything out in the streets. Because that time they did not do what they do now. That's when they evict you, they take your stuff and put it in a storage bonded warehouse. Right out there on the curb. I was a result as a lawsuit. Now, I didn't start that when somebody else did. But then they would throw your stuff out in the streets, and while you were away from the house, the neighbors just picked over what they want, your television, whatever they want, and it was in the ditch. That's right. Well, they were going to come and do that to me. Well, I told the judge, I said, you send them on out there, and I'll be waiting for them when they come. And they were by law supposed to come and evict me from my house, and I was standing on this door. Now, when I had to go and relieve myself vitally or whatever, guess who was standing on the door with the cap on that looked like me? It was my wife, Naomi. That's right. She's something. She's a soldier. As a result of my trip out to Pasadena, I came back and asked the attorney, Pink, how can we change that situation? He said, well, what we've got to do is just redistrict this county, and we can have justices of the peace. Right. I said, well, what does that take? He said, we need enough votes down there on the county commissioner's court. Have to have 3 people. They got 5. 3 of them have to vote to redistrict. I ran for county commissioner's court just to get in position to put somebody on that court. Put a 3rd man on there. Long story short, we got the county redistrict, and we ended up with 2 justices of peace for the Hispanic community and 1 for the black community, which is May Walker. And constables. And 2 constables. Right, 1 constable go 2 justices of the peace. We got 2. The Hispanic community got a constable and 2 justices of peace. Right. As a result of my action of doing that. So we changed the political structure, and I was able to help do something about it. All right, I was reverting back to an incident that happened at Texas Southern University, and I was trying to tie in this relationship with activism and the garbage dumps and how it related to the city of Houston, and always some tragedy befell our community once the city had decided it was going to drop garbage or keep garbage in our community. Well, we were fighting real hard to close what was called a home road dump in '67. And was successful, was gaining success and upper hand because the crowd was getting larger and larger, the protest was getting bigger, and the threat was that people were getting ready, willing to lay down and stop the garbage trucks from coming into the entrance into Holmes Road dump. Well, obviously the city had to find some way out of this dilemma. Now, simultaneously, over at Texas Southern, the youth at that school was protesting the fact that Texas Southern main entrance way between this dormitory and some of its buildings, academic buildings, was a runway and a speedway, to be exact. And Wheeler Avenue was just wide open, and the students was asking that it be closed. Say, this is insane for people to be speeding up and down. These kids cannot walk or go across to the class. And I think 1 or 2 kids had gotten hit over that. So the pressure was on from the students to close Wheeler Avenue right where the university area was. Well, the city has said that could not be done. It was not going to be done. And the protest was going on, so in order to take the attention away from the garbage dump, the police started an incident at Texas Southern University. And that incident grew and grew and finally ended up with some cop named Blaylock, I think it was. Somewhere, somehow, he was shot in the buttocks by somebody, and we don't know who and don't know until this day. But anyway, they put it on the students that was actively participating in setting up roadblocks to keep cars from coming through. So they took it out on them, and here come cops from everywhere. So they surrounded the dormitory and said they knew who had done shot this cop, and they wanted them. They wanted a full dress. You know, everybody come out the dormitories and all that, and they had kids coming out of the dormitory in all the state of dress. Some had, it was in showers and stuff, and some of the kids refused to come out. And the cops just started unloading bullets in the place. 300 rounds of ammunition was shot in on these students, and it's fortunate that nobody of the student group were murdered. I would have been murdered if anybody had gotten hit, because they had no real reason to be there, no real reason to be shooting into the university, because nobody at the university had done anything other than students were protesting and peacefully trying to get a road closed. Well, during that melee, a cop got shot, right, named Quebec. Policeman named Quebec got shot right between the eyes. And they tried to figure out what had happened here. First they wanted to say the militants had shot Quebec. But then they thought about that. They said, even if they did, we can't tell these niggas that they done shot a police and killed a police officer. That could catch on. And they realized that we got a vulnerability. So they said a bullet that they were shooting of the 300 rounds they shot up on the building hit a building and bounced back over 300 and some yards and popped Quebec between the eyes. Well, that's how that ended, but I mean, that's how that went for his death. But there were 5 youngsters that was involved in, including Leotis Johnson and some other guys, that was charged with inciting to riot, which led to Quebec's death. And all these brothers went on trial, and I think successfully all of them were acquitted. Yeah. They took the case down, where was it, in somewhere right outside of Houston. It escaped me now after 40-some years. But they were all successfully acquitted. And that's strange because
That's right.
there was an officer's death involved here. But let's move on back to Dowling Street because that was one garbage dump situation. The Dowling Street situation, I just wanted to show the similarities between when a garbage dump is to be dumped on the black community and the black community is active and in full gear to stop it, they start a diversionary tactic somewhere else to get the people's attention away from the garbage dump. Garbage dump had started out, matter of fact, in front of Herman Schultz's house.
Yeah.
Out near his house. His wife was one of the protesters out there who ran them out of off of Alameda Genoa Road. And this is where the chief lived. We had his address. We knew where he lived. Later they were gonna move that same garbage dump behind a school over there off of Belford. What is that school over there? Right behind that park on Belford.
Sunnyside Park, yeah. Sunnyside Elementary.
Sunnyside Elementary School.
It's young elementary.
They're gonna put it right behind the school. Well, they know we weren't gonna let them do that. So we went out and ran them out of there. But they went to their main target where they originally wanted to go, and that was out on Kirkpatrick Road, because they was already out there grading the road when they couldn't go at Sunnyside School. And they were going out there where we caught up with them, and we were protesting, had people ready to lie down the streets and stuff. We knew a tactic that would stop the garbage trucks. We had women, some pregnant, would lay down in the road, and we standing there with our briefcases, I'll just put it that way. So anybody run over one of those ladies, she's pregnant, run over her, and you're gonna see the damnedest excitement you ever seen out here in this community. So the trucks stopped. We had stopped the trucks, and they were at a standstill. So they had to come up with now, again, with the diversionary tactic. 2 cops driving down Dowling Street saw some young brothers, and this place had already been targeted. People Party 2 headquarters. They were in front of People Party 2 headquarters, which was a forerunner of the Black Panther Party here in Houston. They were handing out the Black Panther papers, selling the Black Panther papers. 2 cops pulled up and said, "Well, what are y'all doing?" I said, "Sir, we're selling the newspaper." Say, "We want you to get your asses off the street here. You can't sell that paper here in this town. That's Black Panther, and we don't want it here in Houston." The youngster just kept holding the papers out, saying, "Sir, do you want to buy the paper?" You know, they wasn't afraid of none of this. Well, they did that Richard Pryor thing. Say, "Look, boy, we're going to make the block, and when we come back, y'all better have your asses out of here, or we're going to take you, we're going to whip you. First we're going to whip your black asses, and then we're going to take you to jail." Well, these youngsters, when the cops came back, they was holding the paper out. "Do you want to purchase the paper?" Cops jumped out the vehicle, but by that time, Carl was coming from his apartment to the office building. Now, there's a law in Texas, and you need to know this, that I want to establish that Carl wasn't doing anything illegal. That if you transport money from one place to the other, and if I'm not mistaken, as of this day, that law is still on the books. Carl was coming from his apartment. He had money for the organization he's getting ready to send to headquarters in California to the Panthers for that paper. And he had a 45 bandolera on his chest. And when he walked up at the time, the cops was accosting these young men. He said, "Hey, hold it, what's going on?" He was right in front of the building. And Carl said, "Look," the cops said, "Look, we told these boys to get their asses off the street. They can't sell that paper here." Carl said, "What do you mean, man? This is America. You ever read the First Amendment?" And while they were in the course of having that conversation, the cop noticed Carl had this gun on his shoulder. He said, "Hey, boy, is that a real gun?" Cop, I think they said, well, I know Carl said it, that he cocked his head and looked at the officer's gun and said, "Is your gun real?" He said, "Yeah, well, boy, give me that gun." He said, "Give me yours." And the officer went to go for his gun. That's when Carl pulled out the .45 and put it right up to the officer, in front of the officer's head, and said, "Now look," and told his partner, say, "I'm looking at you. If you make any kind of funny move, I'm gonna have to take your partner out." And he said, "Now get on off the property and go on. We don't want any trouble. We just trying to be peaceful citizens and help this community." Well, the cops realized that they were outdrawn and was in had a dire situation here if they had tried to be aggressive. So they moved back into the car, drove over into that park, Emancipation Park, and officers need assistance. And of course, 80 laws, helmets, and all the riot gear and everything showed up, I understand. Now, I'm still out now. Where was I at this time? I was out at Kirkpatrick Road where they were trying to lay this garbage dump. So was all, more than half of Carl men was working with us out there. Some youngster ran out to tell Carl people, say, "Hey man, you need to get back to Dowling Street. We got a problem." These officers surrounded the building and told Carl and them to come out or they were going to burn the building. You know how they did, what was that group in California where they burned the building down on top of them?
Seminole Liberation.
Seminole Liberation
They did it also to the Oriented.
Well, they were getting set up to do this same thing to Carl and them, but a strange thing happened. The people in the community saw what was going on and heard the language of these cops, and they jumped out of their vehicles and stuff and started coming out. I understand. Now, I didn't see this, and I can't vouch for this, but I know when I got there, I can tell you what I saw. These people got out with their weapons and stuff and said simply, if you kill those youngsters in that building, because everybody knew who was in that building.
They was helping to clean up the neighborhoods.
They were saying, if you kill them, then you're going to have to turn around and kill us. And they had weapons. And more people started getting nuts and jumping out of their cars with their weapons. When we got there, because I left when the car people left to go to Dowling Street, when we arrived there, people were swarming all over the streets and everybody had a gun. I ain't never seen so many guns in my life. It looked like we were going to war. I said, "Well, where's the cops?" They say, "They were over there in the park, but they gone." They have retreated to Emancipation Park when it was surrounded by the community. The most beautiful thing ever happened in this city, where the community stood up and was not afraid. And whoever was in charge of them told them to get out of the park and get back out of the area. So they left, and helicopters started coming over the place, and then we went back to the building, and we sat down and we started planning and strategizing, because we knew the war was on. Well, that was the beginning of 10 days of holding Dowling Street. Probably the longest, the Dowling Street siege. Probably the longest anybody have ever, I don't think the Shea Rebellion lasted 10 days. Probably the longest anybody held the street. I'm talking about, when I say held the street, I'm not talking about we were peeping down the street or anything. I'm talking, we had sawhorses out there where anybody coming through there to come through Checkpoint Charlie, starting up at McGowan Street and down at Elgin Street. Now, everything come through there, and in between there was the building. Anybody coming through there had to be checked out and okay. We didn't mind the cops coming in if they could show us they had legitimate reason to be in that area because somebody had called them, and we could verify that they were called. The alley was famous for the fact that you could drive through there just like a driving, like you drive through McDonald's and other places, and you could get whiskey. Cough syrup. And get, later on it was cough syrup, Robitussin, and whatever you needed, and then it just got bigger and bigger. But it was a guy named Tin Hat that sort of managed the place out there. Now, I can't think of the name of the gentleman that owned the Texas Cafe is what it was called, which all this operation was coming out of.
And that was next door to Wolf's Department Store.
Yeah,
pretty much. And alley was
Wolf
on the
Department
side.
Store, and right across the street was People Party 2 headquarters. Well, they had a big, they couldn't be Panthers, but they had a big Panther sign up on the building.
Right.
And I understand through our investigation later on, we discovered that the guy that was the head of the East Texas Cafe was also a deacon of the church across the street, St. John's Church. And that church ties in with Carl murder, because that's where the cops murdered Carl from, outside of the church. Somebody had to let him in, and I understand this guy who was a deacon and also a precinct judge was the one let them in. And he also was a big backer of Mayor Louis Welch at that time, so he had autonomy. What happened was that he said a lot of his patients, I mean his people that was coming through, patrons, not patients, I guess the same thing, coming through the alley was getting scared, was becoming scared off because they saw that Panther sign across the street and asked them if they couldn't move that. And then they had some white kids coming out there, and they really at that time they thought the Panthers, some of them here in Houston, thought they were racist and thought that meant killing white kids, you know. So they were really putting pressure on to get the Panthers off the corner. Not clean up the drugs, get the Panthers off the corner. So that was the motivation for the cops to get involved. Anyway, we held Dowling Street from that Friday till the next Sunday. A truce, let me tell you one thing nobody ever talked about and never come out. A truce was called on the Thursday. And I guess it's the first time I ever heard anybody calling a truce with a community activist group. But we had a truce call. Matter of fact, our HNICs, which was people like the head of one of the local newspapers and big bail bondsman here and a big land developer here and another real estate, big black real estate dealer here, and all those people were called into a meeting by the mayor pro tem. I realized Louis Welch had left out of town, and you don't leave your city when it's in turmoil, but he left out and went to Sweden and left Mancuso in charge. Mancuso didn't know what to do, so he called all the HNICs together and said, hey, look, see if you can go out there and talk to them boys that holding that the street down there on Dowling and see if they would be willing to compromise and put down their guns, and they can keep some guns around their building and blah, 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 and this kind of stuff, and we won't attack them. We'll pull off the helicopters, pull the cops out of the areas, and there'll be peace in the valley. Well, they came to Carl with that proposition. They came to us, and we had a meeting. And, well, some of the people hadn't been home for almost a week. Better than
it was
a week.
like martial law.
Yeah.
In that area.
And better than a week. So people were actually happy to hear that could be some kind of settlement. And now the other thing was, the question was, what's going to happen to Carl? Because see, they had filed charges on Carl saying that he had drawn a gun on officers and threatened their lives, so something had to happen to Carl. Well, Carl, we had an attorney named Bobby Caldwell, so Bobby negotiated the fact with these HNICs that, well, they said that he could bring Carl in that following Monday. Now this was on a Thursday, that following Monday, and you know, get all this stuff together, and then they would take Carl and formally charge him, but his lawyer could be there with him and 2 or 3 of his men, and they would, as soon as they mugged him and everything, he would be released on a recognizance bond and let go. So that was supposed to be the settlement. So everybody was relieved, and people started taking off going home. Some people went back as far back as went to Mexico. And we thought everything was over. In the back of my mind, I knew it wasn't, but we thought it was over. Coming that Friday, nothing happened of any significance. Saturday, It was dead, really. Nothing going on. But that Sunday afternoon, in come the gendarmes running down, broke through the barriers. Well, we had taken the barriers down. I take that back. They drove down the street. 30 cars passed this building. We were in the building having just a brief meeting about what was going to happen Monday. And we were watching them. On the back of the building where our guards were, they picked up 2 of the guards who were guarding the back of our building. They picked them up. That was to keep them from seeing the cops going into the church house, where they were going to set up to take a shot and murder Carl. Long story short, Carl called O'Reilly, because Bobby Caldwell, the attorney, found out how much it would take, $300 to get those boys bailed out, so we could find what the hell had happened and why had the cop broken the truce. And while we were having a rally to do that, in come the cops. Well, some lady, I'll never forget as long as I live, somebody in a vehicle edged up into the crowd and said, "Hey, Carl, there's some white men on top of the church house building." And Carl had just finished speaking. I think Bartia Hill had just finished speaking, and I was about to speak. And Carl said, "Well, hold it, let me go check this out." Carl started on the side of the building, the same side of the building he was and the church was, and he was looking up at the church, and he could see white heads bobbing up and down. He came back and asked Bartia Hill and said, "Hey man, is any of your people on top of the building?" I said, "No, it's not my fault." Well, we knew then it was the cops. Carl went across the street by Wolf's, got behind a post, and stood there with his rifle at ready, and leaned out to see what was going on, and that's when they hit him. They hit him with a dumbbell chair. Out of the church house, not on top. That was just, they were dummies. I mean, those were just decoys. They shot him from inside the church house and murdered Carl right there. I like to link things because the political power in the city. Remember, I mentioned that in my opening statement. There was not even a dog catcher in this town.
That's right.
Well, I decided I was going to change that. I waited and worked with groups, and I thought somebody else would go that was known here in Houston. Everybody was afraid to come forward because the police department had put out a need there. Anybody run for a public office and they haven't been given the permission to do that, they're going to run afoul of the law. Now, that wasn't like some written law. It was just an understood law, like you. Okay, well, I don't believe in yous and laws and none of that kind of stuff. That is not written down and codified by state legislators. I decided to file for city council. Well, I went down to file. The first thing I met with, the lady asked me, a little nice lady sitting behind the counter there, she said, "Sir, you want to file for city council?" She said, "You know it's $500 to put your hat in the ring." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I understand that, but I'm unemployed. I don't have no money." She said, "Okay." She said, "But even if you had the $500, you are aware that you have to have property and have owned that property 2 years prior to filing." I said, "Ma'am, I don't own no property. I live in an apartment house down here at Kane Gates Apartments, and I don't represent the apartment people." She said, "Well, you can't do that, sir, and I can't sign you up." I said, "Oh, I'll be back." I went and got me a lawyer named Peter Williamson, and I had to also, I was being instructed by Walter Payne, an attorney here, who was my government teacher at Texas Southern. By the way, I'd like to say I was going to school to get my master's degree all the time. I'm out here fighting the system. I got my bachelor's and master's, shooting at night and fighting at night and going to school during the daytime. I filed suit in the federal court and to get my name on the ballot. We won the case. Now I'll give you copies of the case itself, case law, and the statements that the judge made, that we didn't have to have it was illegal for them to talk about me having property ownership. That law had been knocked out somewhere back in Boston. I think the Judge Singleton told the city attorney. And he said about the filing fee, you got to get Mr. Duncantell and work something out. He said, we know why you have the filing fee. That's to limit the ballot. He said, but you can't use money as the only way that this man can get his name on the ballot. He said, how about petitions on names on the petition? So we started the official petition route here in the city of Houston, got that codified by the federal court. So my name was put on the ballot. Well, the cops say, well, you got by the judge, but you didn't get by us. And I was coming from a campaign rally one night, headed home, and they caught me over here on McGregor Drive, and 2 officers stopped me, and that was no contest. And I won't go into details on what happened on that, but they didn't handle me, I handled them. Me and the 2 officers ended up in Ben Taubes in the hospital. They called for, one broke away from me and called for assistance. Officers need assistance. Now here I'm one man, and there are 2 cops, both got guns. They called for assistance and it looked like they were coming out of parachutes. To their own estimation, it's in the paper, it was in the Chronicle paper, 38 officers showed up at the scene. But what they did, they surrounded me, and then a crew came in and beat the hell out of me. I had a white shirt on, a white shirt and a tie, coming from a rally, and the coat was in the car. And that shirt was red, blood red, in the front and back, when they got through with me. The minister, who was at University of Houston, and his wife came down and saved my life. Minister Walls, his name was. He was a black Presbyterian minister from Philadelphia. No, from Detroit. He and his wife came downstairs when these cops were whipping me and beating me, and I'm bleeding from my ears, my eyes, and everywhere else, and called to a sergeant that they saw he just pulled up. And the wife said, I didn't know this until we got in court, she testified to this, that she said to the officer, Sergeant, I just took down your car number. And if that man dies that y'all are beating there, I'm going to turn your number, car number, into the FBI. She said, unless you turn around and shoot me and my husband. Well, I heard the sergeant tell them to get up off of me. And they stood me up, and that's when they planted the marijuana cigarette. I heard an officer, I saw a white officer come up. He came up from nowhere, had a short sleeve shirt on. He was in the narcotic division. Reached into his pocket and said, sorry. Pulled out a little matchbox. He said, no wonder this nigga out here fighting with y'all. He's full of marijuana. He's high on this stuff right here. He said, I just got this off the dashboard of his car. And they all started laughing. And I said, I know you're not going to do to me what y'all did to Leodis Johnson. Plant some marijuana.
One cigarette for him.
Leodis Johnson was given 30 years in the penitentiary. At the time, there was just one joint. Well, they had just a matchbox, and he said, oh boy, you're going to be gone for a long time. He told me I could run for officers up in the penitentiary. Anyway, we went to court, and everybody was testifying against me. The mayor testified against me, and he wasn't there. I mean, I'm talking about people that was totally unrelated to my case, and my attorney was trying to protest them testifying. And the judge, who was a judge named Sam Davis, who claimed to be a descendant of, what was the Confederate president name? Something Davis. Yeah. He claimed to be a direct descendant of him. He was the judge in my case. He wouldn't let my attorney object to nothing. And called my attorney a whole bunch of niggas. We had a recess, and I told my attorney, I said, you go and you tell that old decrepit bastard if he called me a nigger, one time in the country, you go get my transcript and you find that transcript of that tribe and you see he never referred to me, he never referred to nigger anymore after I told my attorney this. I say, court is over. See, at that time they didn't have these magtronomers, and I had my briefcase, and you know what I carried in my briefcase.
He always carried his pistol.
My briefcase was sitting right there, and if they had that jury, something, the creator must have told them, said, don't you put him in the penitentiary. They could have gave me the same 30 years they gave Leo's. But they gave me probation, 9 years probation. Had they given me 1 day time, I was going to turn court out. It was over. I told my wife and the lady that was with her, I say, if they give me some time, y'all just ease out here, because the show is over. In 1975, we started the organization, the Black Heritage Society. Joe Tasby and others working with us. And the purpose of that was to sort of give my image a change from a sort of from Saul to Paul.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Biblically, if you're familiar with that biblical association,
right.
To give me a little softer image. And we decided to organize the Martin Luther King, the Black Heritage Society, and we took on as our main project honoring Dr. King. In the process of doing that, there's a minister here in Houston named C.D. Daniels and Leo Daniels, two brothers out there on Jensen. They had contact directly with Dr. King's father. And one of the young ladies on our board said, hey, why don't y'all, if you want to get somebody here when we have the honor of Dr. King, let's get Dr. King's father here. Well, I thought that was the craziest dream in the world. But she put me with the Daniel brothers, and they arranged to have Dr. King's father come here.
But it took 3 years to get the street name changed to get up to
We had to first get the street changed from South Park Boulevard, and that's, by the way, that's my next fight. They're trying to change that. We changed South Park Boulevard to Martin Luther King Boulevard. And we had a huge ceremony. Dr. King's father was here, and he commissioned us to carry on.
That's right.
And we've been doing that. This is our 32nd year coming up now.
And we're probably the only program in the country that Dr. King himself, the first, plus Dr. King's dad, Daddy King, was here on spot. We got it on tape.
Yes.
To kick it off and to talk about how you appreciate this man, because the thrust was to carry on the ideals of Dr. King, much more than just a parade.
And to set the basis for the national holiday.
Right, exactly.
See,
way
Dr.
before
King's
people
father was trying to do everything he could in this country to motivate people to get a national holiday. Because see, our ceremony was 10 years before the national holiday.
That's right.
We didn't come as a result of the holiday. The holiday came as a result of us.
That's right.
Because we had the first major ceremony here for Dr. King on his birthday.
And not just that, but tell me about the Death Day ceremony. We're the only one that celebrated.
We've been celebrating having a candlelight ceremony for Dr. King ever since the year he was assassinated.
That's right. Black Heritage Society.
This is our 42nd
year.
What is it? 42nd year.
People come from all over. We have some on his death. Been doing it way
so the King family has been a close thing to us. Now, I've never been close to the children, but Floretta, Dr. King's father, and his nephew, Dr. King's nephew, Derek King, has always been with her.
He's come to do this.
He's here whenever we have a ceremony, and we want to get him here for this event. His brother Vernon was always with us until he passed, just recently. But the King family, we will keep that name alive forever. At my opening statement, I stated that when I came to Houston, I was not even a black in power in terms, it was even a dog catcher. Now we have blacks in power all over the place. Judges, we have city council people, we've had black mayors and black police chiefs all over the place. But I feel pretty good that my life has been a small, teeny-weeny, itsy-bitsy part of bringing some of these changes about.
It's made a
I
difference.
didn't just talk about or
That's
complain about something was wrong with this picture.
That's right.
I put my life on the line to try
Continually.
and make that picture change.
That's right.
And I think we've done a little changing of the picture. And I am proud, and as I wanted to say to all men, if you got a good wife, keep her, because I was motivated by my wife Naomi to keep on going. See, most of our black men, our black women tell us, honey, look, we got to save the house, we got to save the job, we have to save the money, we got to save the kids, or some reason or excuse not to stand up and be men.
Now you've seen these three great freedom fighters of Houston, Texas, the three Houston Hammers. Brother Deloyd Parker, a community organizer. Reverend Ray Martin, the fighting preacher, the only man alive who claims to have knocked Muhammad Ali down not once, not twice, but 3 times. Of course, Muhammad claimed he slipped, but Reverend Ray contends he can see Muhammad slipping once, maybe twice, but 3 times? Come on, Muhammad. And of course, Brother Ovide Duncantell, our freedom fighter who's fighting for justice and equality. Well, again, we hope you enjoyed these documentaries. I'm Dwayne Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
You got a big frown on your face. Every time I see you, you got a big frown on your face. I can see hate coming from you, just because of my color and my race. Even on the TV, I see your hatred on the news. Even on the TV, I see your hatred on the news. You're beating and killing my folks, and claim it's not even police abuse. I'm so tired of you hate me blue. I'm so tired of you hate me blue. 'Cause there ain't nothing I can do about the you hate me blue. No. I can't even walk down the street without your hate